Every summer, a Premier League club spends £80 million on a single footballer. The chairman stands at a press conference. He talks about ambition, about the project, about competing at the highest level. The fans cheer. The shirt sells out in 48 hours. And 6 months later, the same club posts a financial loss of £120 million. Nobody in that press conference explained how that is possible. Nobody explained where the £80 million came from. Nobody explained why a business that loses £120 million per year has not gone bankrupt. Most football fans, even the most passionate, the ones who watch every match, who know every statistic, who can name every player in the squad, have no idea how their club actually makes money. They know the results, they know the transfers. They do not know the balance sheet. This video is the balance sheet. Not in the way an accountant would explain it, in the way it actually works, the real mechanics of how a modern football club generates revenue, spends it, loses it, borrows it, and somehow keeps the lights on despite financial losses that would bankrupt any conventional business. By the end of this video, you will understand football finance better than 95% of the people who watch the sport, and you will never look at a transfer announcement the same way again. Every football club, from Real Madrid to a League Two club in England, generates revenue from exactly 3 sources. The proportions differ enormously. The sources are always the same. Source 1: matchday revenue. This is the oldest and most straightforward revenue stream in football. People come to the stadium, they buy tickets, the club keeps the money. For most of football's history, this was the primary revenue source. In 1990, matchday revenue accounted for approximately 70% of the average English top-flight club's income. Today, for a Premier League club, it represents approximately 15 to 20%. The reason is simple. Stadiums have a fixed capacity. You can charge more per ticket, and Premier League clubs have done exactly that, pushing average ticket prices to levels that have generated significant fan backlash. But there is a hard ceiling on how much matchday revenue a club can generate. That ceiling is determined by how many seats are in the stadium. Old Trafford holds 74,000 people. The average Premier League ticket costs approximately £50. Manchester United could sell out every home match of the season, 19 league games plus cup games, and generate roughly £80 million in matchday revenue. Their total revenue is approximately £650 million. Matchday income for the biggest clubs is almost irrelevant to the overall financial picture. Source 2: broadcast revenue. This is where modern football finance was transformed and where the Premier League built its global dominance. In 1992, the Premier League was formed and signed its first television deal with Sky for £304 million over 5 years. At the time, it was considered an extraordinary sum. It represented approximately £60 million per year distributed across 22 clubs. The 2022 to 2025 broadcast deal is worth £10.5 billion over 3 years, approximately £175 million per club per season from domestic rights alone, before international rights are added. That transformation from £3 million per club per year in 1992 to £175 million per club per year in 2022 is the single most important financial event in the history of English football. It is why Premier League clubs can spend £80 million on a single player. It is why the gap between English football and every other league in the world has become structurally unbridgeable. International rights add further income on top of domestic deals. The Premier League is broadcast in 188 countries. NBC pays approximately $400 million per year for US rights alone. The total broadcast revenue distributed to Premier League clubs, domestic plus international, is approximately £240 million per club per season for the top 6. Source 3: commercial revenue. This is the most complex and the fastest growing revenue stream in modern football, and the one that separates the genuinely global clubs from everyone else. Commercial revenue includes shirt sponsorships, kit manufacturing deals, stadium naming rights, tour revenue, licensing fees, and the growing ecosystem of digital and content monetization. Real Madrid's commercial revenue is approximately 400 million euros per season. Their Fly Emirates shirt deal alone is reported at 70 million euros per year. Their Adidas kit deal is approximately 120 million euros per year. Their stadium naming rights deal for the renovated Bernabeu is expected to generate significant additional income. For a mid-table Premier League club, commercial revenue might be 20 to 30 million pounds per season. For Manchester United, despite years of poor on-field performance, it is approximately 300 million pounds, built on a global fan base of 1.1 billion people accumulated over decades of Champions League football. Commercial revenue is the revenue that has no ceiling. There is no fixed capacity, no broadcast deal structure. It is limited only by the global strength of the brand, and that is why the biggest clubs invest so heavily in tours, in social media, in content, and in commercial partnerships. They are not just building football teams, they are building global media brands that happen to play football. Understanding how football clubs make money is only half the picture. The more important question, the one that explains why clubs with revenues of 500 million pounds still post losses, is understanding where the money goes. There are two dominant costs in football finance. Everything else is secondary. Cost 1, wages. The wage bill is the defining financial variable for every football club at every level of the game. It is the cost that does not flex easily. Players sign multi-year contracts, and those contracts must be honored regardless of results, regardless of revenue fluctuations, regardless of whether the team gets relegated. In the Premier League, the average club spends approximately 65 to 70% of its total revenue on wages. For the biggest clubs with the highest paid squads, that figure can exceed 80%. Manchester United's wage bill in 2022-23 was approximately £384 million. Their total revenue was £648 million. That means wages alone consumed 59% of every pound the club generated, before a single transfer fee was paid, before a training ground bill was settled, before a light was turned on at Old Trafford. The UEFA Financial Sustainability Regulations, the successor to Financial Fair Play, now require clubs to keep their wage, transfer, amortization, and agent fee costs below 70% of total revenue. This single rule defines the financial strategy of every major European club. Cost 2, transfer amortization. This is the accounting mechanism that most fans do not understand, and the one that makes football finance genuinely complex. When a club spends £80 million on a player and signs him to a 5-year contract, they do not record an £80 million expense in year 1. They spread that cost across the length of the contract, £16 million per year for 5 years. This is called amortization, and it is the reason clubs can spend hundreds of millions on transfers without those costs immediately destroying their annual accounts. But amortization is not magic, it is deferred reality. Every pound spent on transfers eventually appears as a cost. A club that spends £200 million on transfers in a single summer will carry approximately £40 million per year in amortization costs for the following 5 years, on top of the wages those players are earning. The combination of wages and amortization is why so many Premier League clubs post losses, even in years when their revenue is at record levels. The costs are structural. They do not disappear in a good season. They accumulate. Now that you understand the revenue and the costs, the transfer market makes sense in a way it never did before. A transfer fee is not simply the price of a player. It is a financial instrument with multiple components, each of which affects a club's accounts differently. When Chelsea paid £97 million for Enzo Fernandez in January 2023 and signed him to an 8.5-year contract, they were not paying £97 million for a midfielder. They were spreading £97 million across 8.5 years of amortization, approximately £11.4 million per year. At that amortization rate, the annual accounting cost of Fernandez was lower than many players signed for half his fee on shorter contracts. This is why Premier League clubs have increasingly moved toward long contracts, not primarily for sporting reasons, for financial sustainability reasons. A player signed for 6 years is cheaper on the annual accounts than the same player signed for 3 years at half the fee. The sell-on market is equally important. Clubs do not just buy players, they buy assets that can be resold. A player purchased for £30 million and sold 2 years later for £60 million generates a profit of £30 million on the accounts, a profit that directly offsets other losses and improves the club's financial sustainability position. This is why the most financially sophisticated clubs, Brighton, Brentford, Lille, Monaco, have built their entire competitive strategy around the buy low, sell high model. They are not trying to win leagues. They are trying to generate consistent transfer profits that fund squad improvement and satisfy financial regulations simultaneously. Here is the question that every fan eventually asks. If clubs are losing hundreds of millions per year, why do they not go bankrupt? The answer has 3 parts. First, owner funding. The majority of Premier League clubs are funded by their owners at a level that goes far beyond what any conventional business investment would justify. Roman Abramovich put approximately £1.5 billion into Chelsea over 19 years. Sheikh Mansour has put over £1.5 billion into Manchester City. The Glazers, despite being widely criticized for extracting value from Manchester United, initially funded significant debt at the club level. These are not investments with an expectation of financial return in the traditional sense. They are purchases of prestige, influence, and in some cases, geopolitical positioning. The losses are the price of ownership, not a sign of financial failure. Second, asset appreciation. Football clubs have appreciated in value at a rate that defies conventional financial logic. Chelsea was purchased for £140 million in 2003 and sold for £4.25 billion in 2022. Manchester United was valued at approximately £800 million in the Glazer takeover in 2005 and is now valued at over £5 billion. Arsenal's valuation has increased from approximately £500 million to over £2 billion in the past decade. An owner who loses £100 million per year in operating costs but holds an asset that appreciates by £200 million per year is, in real terms, generating a return. The losses on the income statement are more than offset by the capital gains on the balance sheet. Third, debt financing. Football clubs carry significant debt, and the debt markets have consistently been willing to lend against football's assets at relatively favorable rates. The reason is simple. Premier League clubs have guaranteed broadcast revenues. Every club in the Premier League receives a minimum of £100 million per season from broadcast distributions, regardless of results, regardless of league position, regardless of how badly the team performs. That guaranteed income stream is collateral. It is predictable, contracted revenue that arrives every year for as long as the club remains in the Premier League. Banks and bond markets understand guaranteed revenue streams. They lend against them willingly. Manchester United has approximately £1 billion in long-term debt. Arsenal issued £120 million in bonds to finance the construction of the Emirates Stadium. Tottenham borrowed over £800 million to build their new stadium.
All of this debt was financed against the security of future broadcast revenues. The system works until it does not. The moment a club is relegated from the Premier League, that guaranteed broadcast income collapses. A club dropping from the Premier League to the Championship loses approximately £100 million per year in broadcast distributions almost immediately. The wages do not drop at the same rate. The debt does not disappear. The result is a financial crisis that has destroyed clubs that were financially stable at the top level. Sunderland, Portsmouth, Bradford City, Coventry, all of them experienced versions of this collapse. The safety net of Premier League broadcast revenue is simultaneously the foundation of modern football finance and the trapdoor that swallows clubs the moment they fall through it.
Now you understand something that most football fans never take the time to learn. A football club is not a conventional business. It does not operate by conventional financial logic. It loses money structurally, by design, almost inevitably, and it survives because its owner absorbs those losses in exchange for prestige, influence, or asset appreciation. It borrows against guaranteed broadcast revenues that are uniquely predictable in an otherwise volatile industry. And it manages its costs through the accounting mechanics of amortization, spreading transfer fees across contract lengths to make annual accounts look more sustainable than the raw spending figures suggest. The transfer announcement you see on social media, the excited fan filming the signing, the shirt reveal, the press conference, is the visible surface of a financial instrument. Beneath it is an amortization schedule, a wage structure, a contract length calculated to optimize financial sustainability compliance, and a resale value projection that determines whether the fee made sense. The chairman talking about ambition at that press conference is not lying. Ambition is real. But ambition in modern football is expressed through financial engineering as much as through sporting vision. Understanding that does not make football less exciting, it makes it more interesting. Because now, when you see a club spend £80 million on a player, you are not just watching a transfer, you are watching a financial decision made within a complex web of broadcast revenues, wage ratios, amortization schedules, financial fair play regulations, and owner funding strategies. You are watching the business of football. And the business of football is one of the most fascinating financial stories in the world.